In an Ethiopian home, before anything else happens, someone lays fresh grass across the floor. Green blades and a few flowers turn an ordinary room into something like a small garden. A woman kneels beside a small charcoal stove, a handful of pale green coffee beans in her palm. This isn't breakfast being made quickly before work. This is the start of something much slower. In Ethiopia, coffee isn't just brewed, it's performed in front of the very people who'll drink it. The whole process, start to finish, can take 2 hours, sometimes 3, without hurry. No one seems to mind the wait. In fact, the wait is really the whole point. This is the coffee ceremony, and it happens in homes across the country most days of the week. It isn't reserved for guests of honor or special occasions. It's simply how people spend time together. Coffee itself has a story here that predates the whole rest of the world's love for it. Because coffee wasn't just discovered somewhere near Ethiopia. By most accounts, it was discovered here. To understand why a cup of coffee here means so much, you have to slow down first. Start with the plant itself. Wild coffee trees still grow in Ethiopia's southwestern highlands today. The region is called Kaffa, and many believe the word coffee traces straight back to its name. Legend tells of a goat herder named Kaldi, who noticed something strange about his animals one afternoon. His goats, usually calm, were suddenly leaping and dancing near a small red-berried shrub. Curious, Kaldi tried the berries himself and felt the same restless, wakeful energy take hold. The story may be legend more than history, but Ethiopians still tell it with a smile. What isn't legend is this. Ethiopia remains one of the birthplaces of coffee as the world knows it. An old Ethiopian proverb puts its importance plainly. Buna dabo now, coffee is our bread. Not a treat, not a luxury, a staple as essential as bread itself. Coffee farming here touches the lives of millions of families, from the highlands to the cities. But the ceremony itself is really about something bigger than the coffee plant. It's about what happens when people choose to sit still together for a few unhurried hours. The coffee is served in 3 separate rounds, and each one has its own name and meaning. Abol, the first round, is the strongest, poured for the most honored guest first. Tona, the second, is a little gentler. Baraka, the third, means to be blessed. Leaving before the first round is finished is considered a small act of rudeness. The ceremony itself is usually led by a woman, and performing it well takes real skill. She begins by roasting a handful of green coffee beans slowly over an open flame. As the beans darken, the aroma fills the room, rich, smoky, and unmistakably fresh. When they're ready, she carries the pan around so every guest can breathe in the scent. It's a small gesture, but it turns coffee making into something shared from the very first step. Next, the roasted beans are ground by hand, using a simple wooden mortar and pestle. The rhythmic sound of grinding becomes part of the ceremony's quiet, unhurried music. The ground coffee goes into a clay pot called a jabena with its long neck and round base. Each jabena is shaped and painted by hand, often passed down through a single family for years. Water is added, and the pot is set over glowing coals until it slowly comes to a boil. Throughout it all, incense, usually frankincense, burns quietly in the corner of the room. The smoke is said to clear the air of anything unwelcome, leaving only good company behind. When the coffee is ready, the hostess pours it from nearly a foot above the little cups. She keeps the stream unbroken, filling each cup evenly without spilling a single drop. It's a small feat of skill, practiced for years, and guests genuinely notice when it's done well. The cups themselves are called sini, small and handleless, built for a strong, concentrated pour. Traditionally, sugar is offered, never milk, and the coffee is sipped slowly in conversation. Popcorn, roasted barley, or fresh bread are often passed around alongside the coffee. And through all 3 rounds, the conversation is really the second thing being brewed. Business is discussed here. Disagreements are gently settled here. News of the village is shared here. Refusing an invitation to a coffee ceremony is considered genuinely impolite, almost a small insult. Because Being invited means being welcomed all the way into someone's home and their time. In busy modern cities like Addis Ababa, life has understandably picked up its pace. Many people now grab a quick cup on their way to work, no ceremony attached. But step into an actual home, especially on a weekend, and the old ritual is very much alive. Even Ethiopians living abroad often recreate the ceremony, jibena and all, far from home. Researchers studying diaspora communities describe it as a way of holding on to identity in a new country. It becomes less about the coffee itself and more about recreating a feeling of belonging. Neighbors gather. Old stories get told again. A small piece of home is rebuilt, cup by cup. Meanwhile, the wider coffee industry has quietly reshaped how Ethiopians see their own tradition. Coffee accounts for a major share of the country's export earnings and rural livelihoods. Specialty coffee shops abroad now proudly print Ethiopian origin on their bags, chasing rich, complex flavor. Yet very few of those buyers ever witness the ceremony the beans actually came from. For most of the world, coffee is a fast transaction. In Ethiopia, it's still a slow relationship. That contrast is exactly what visitors find most striking once they experience it firsthand. A drink that takes most countries 90 seconds to make and finish still takes hours here. And Ethiopians largely don't see that as inefficient. They see it as the entire point. Some traditions get simplified by modern life. This one has mostly just refused to be rushed. So step back and consider what's really being served in that small clay pot. It's not just caffeine, and it was never really just about caffeine at all. It's attention, it's patience, it's a deliberate decision to stop and be somewhere fully. In a world that keeps finding ways to make everything faster, this ceremony insists on slowness. 3 rounds, each one an invitation to stay a little longer and talk a little more. There's something quietly radical about treating time with other people as worth protecting. Most modern conveniences promise to save us time. This tradition spends it generously on purpose. And somehow, that spending feels less like a loss and more like a gift. It's a reminder that hospitality isn't really measured by what's served, but by how fully. A cup of coffee made this way becomes an argument for presence over speed. You don't need a jibena or fresh grass on your floor to borrow the lesson. Just the willingness every so often to sit down with someone and stay a while.
To let a conversation breathe instead of rushing it toward its natural end.
Ethiopia didn't just give the world a drink, it gave the world a way of sharing it. Every coffee break everywhere quietly traces back to rituals like this one. Few of them, though, remember to slow down enough to honor where it came from. Maybe the real lesson from that clay pot. Connection is often just attention, poured slowly. 3 rounds, 1 pot, and an old Ethiopian home reminding the world what coffee was for.